And we are live. Hey, everybody.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Welcome to the live stream. We are recording.
Okay, well, it's our meeting for the Paralegal Club, and Gwen is going to talk about the intern program, and we've got guests here, speakers that are who are involved in that and can give you firsthand experience. And we just wanted to remind you that we do have the court tour on the 16th. We've had some glitches with Pima Engage. They've made some changes to it, and unfortunately, it affected our attendance at our last court tour, and it's not being reliable right now. So I'm hitting, there we go. So my number's in the chat. The information's out there. We'll put out another newsletter and everything and put that information out again. And you can just show up. You don't have to RSVP. And if you get there and you can't find us, if you're late or something, that's my number's there, so you can text and let us know that you arrived. So we don't want anybody to be left out, and just come on down and join us at the federal courthouse. All right.
Okay, thanks. Well, I guess it's still morning. Good morning, everybody. In case I haven't met you, my name is Gwen Gorbette. I'm the program director for the paralegal program, and I'm excited to talk to you today about the paralegal internship, or PAR 290. We also have four very exciting guests today. We have two paralegal students that are currently doing their internship, and we also have two paralegal graduates who did the internship and are currently employed. So what I thought I'd do is start out telling you just very, very briefly about the internship, because all of you should have received an announcement, probably more than once, if not several times, depending on how many courses you're taking. So I put it in the weekly newsletter that went out about 5 o'clock last night. And just a reminder, if you're not getting that newsletter, to shoot me an email at ggorbette@pima.edu. Sometimes for some reason, a student or two doesn't get on my mailing list. So please let me know if you're not getting it. And then I also want to encourage students to put questions in the chat. So I think what we decided to do is have the presenters give their part of the talk. I'm going to be asking them some questions, and I'm sure the people that are attending today will also have questions for the panelists, and perhaps some questions for me about the internship details. And so I would encourage you to put your questions in the chat, and then we'll answer the questions at the end of the presentation, hopefully no later than about 15 minutes, if not sooner, than the end of the presentation. Okay, so before I introduce our panelists, I just want to mention a few brief things about the internship. Again, all the details are in the announcement that went out several different ways, and I'll probably send it out again once or twice before the end of the week. But long story short, the 4-credit internship, as in the number 4, FOUR, 4-credit internship, is typically done, but not always, in the last semester of the student's program. And as I'm sure all of you know, some students are in the AAS program and some students are in the post-degree. Doesn't matter. Again, it's designed for last semester, but I also encourage students that if it fits their schedule for whatever reason, to do it one semester earlier, meaning they're from their second from last semester. we can talk about that. And so I encourage students to ask questions if they're not sure if they qualify, because it's not their last semester and or because of any of the other requirements. And the other requirements, again, which are all on the announcement, are that you've completed about 3/4 of your program credits. So obviously that's different for the AAS versus the post-degree certificate. But again, it's about three-quarters. It's 45 for the AAS and 27 credits for the post-degree. Probably the most important thing is that you have taken the appropriate courses, and I always want to look at them in writing so I don't forget anything, but the required courses are Ethics 104, Civil Procedure 2, 202, and then for AAS students, you'd have to have your Writing 102 completed. And for post-degree students, they have different requirements, but they have to have at least Writing 101. In addition, the student has to have taken at least 6 specialty credits from the list that is accessible in the catalog and on the announcement. So just to remind you that the internship is considered a legal specialty course. So although 6 credits minimum are required before you take the internship, remember that these 4 credits will apply towards the 18 that are required for your degree. I think that's about all I'm going to say, because maybe students will have specific questions about the requirements or about the process itself as we move along. But again, I just want to remind students to carefully review the requirements, and then also to reach out with any questions, because on rare occasion, in particular for post-degree students, I will allow students to take some of the prereqs concurrently or at the same time as the internship, but that really is on a case-by-case basis, and there's no, shall I say, guarantee that will happen. So again, encouraging students to make sure they meet the requirements, but if they're short a few credits or a course, certainly feel free to reach out to me. Okay, next let's move on to our panelists. I'd like to have each of our panelists introduce themselves and tell us what you're currently doing, whether you're a student or you're working, and then secondly, where you did your internship. And then after everybody has introduced themselves, I'm going to go ahead and ask the panelists questions about their experience. Stephen, did you want to go ahead?
Sure. Thank you, Gwen. My name is Stephen Perko. I'm a current student pursuing my postgraduate paralegal certificate at Pima. I interned this semester with Westwatt Law. I finished my internship hours sooner than expected, and I was retained full-time by Westwatt Law as a paralegal. I'll graduate in May with my postgraduate certificate.
That's great. Thank you. All right, Matt.
Hi, guys. I'm Matt Spahilla. I am a current student as well. I'm interning with the Intercounty Legal Defender's Office. I haven't quite finished my hours. I've got about 40 left, so like 4 weeks. I don't know. That's all I have.
Thanks, Matt. Amanda, would you like to go next?
Hi. So I was a intern in 2020. I did my internship at Peterson Law Firm, which is a family law firm. She recently shut down her practice, And then I got hired at Carpin Weiss, where I work full-time as a family law paralegal. And I think that was it.
Thank you, Amanda. Damos.
Hello there. My name is Damos Thorne. I'm a graduate from Pima College in the associate's program. I did my internship during my last semester at the Pima County Attorney's Office, where I am currently employed full-time. I do code enforcement, land use law, environmental law. I'm involved in the big water rights case with the government for the western coast of the US. Additionally, I do bankruptcy, taxes, TLF, EP, excess proceeds, tax lien foreclosures, and kind of across the board, I do a lot here. I'm also the law librarian in charge of all of our books.
Wow, you wear many hats, don't you?
Yes.
That's great. Thank you. All right, well, I'm going to start out with some questions. I thought we'd go kind of round robin, and there may be other things that come up as we go, but I have some questions that I've come up with. The first question is, what skills, both hard skills such as drafting and soft skills such as employee relations, did you learn or were you exposed to at your internship? Stephen, you want to go first?
Sure. So hard skills, you hit it right on the head with drafting. Here at Westwatt Law, it's a civil law firm, but mostly with family. We also do probate law as well and real estate law. I was assigned during my internship to the probate attorney, although I did cross-train in family, but mostly probate. I'd say the hard skills that I obtained the most was drafting and legal research, especially with no experience in probate law. It really helped to kind of sit down with the other paralegals. And so there comes your soft skill, inter-office relationships, to try to get the paralegal background for your experience. And then I'd say for legal research, we do have a great program at Pima and how to research things. But on the job, there's no other experience like it than doing it on the job. And so I'd say that legal research was probably second to drafting as far as a hard skill. Also, client relations. This is a very customer service oriented profession. And you have to know how to deal with clients and members of the public. So that was another skill I enjoyed learning.
Thank you, Stephen. And I just want to remind people that are viewing today that as your questions come up, please put them in the chat and we'll definitely answer those towards the end of the presentation. So we do want to hear from viewers. All right, Matt, you're next on my screen. Can you tell us what kind of skills you're currently being exposed to, both hard skills and soft skills?
Sure. So I haven't done a lot of drafting or those kind of more the hard skills that you might think a paralegal is going to use. But I guess soft skills wise, it's been a lot of organization and staying self-directed because they're pretty hands off with us. They give us a few tasks and then let us do them on our own, basically. So it's definitely staying focused, staying on task when you're not being watched, that kind of thing. And over the last couple of weeks, I've been putting together some trial files for one of the attorneys over there. So just learning that process and learning the software that the county uses.
Thanks, Matt. Damos, soft skills and hard skills that you might have learned at your internship. I know I'm asking you to dig through your memory bank there.
Yeah, exactly. It was back in 2020, I want to say, like right at the beginning of COVID. During my internship, I ended up interning in the tort unit here at my office. And as far as hard skills and soft skills, one of the big things they had me doing was organizing and prepping trial notebooks and helping with that. kind of right out the door. So that was very time consuming when you're still new to it. Because we dealt with it was a lot of, unfortunately, with a lot of the jail death cases. And so I was also tasked with going through all of the photos and the records and kind of putting everything together. And definitely something you're not prepared for if you don't know in advance, hey, this is what you're going to do. It's kind of how I was hazed, if you will, a little bit, like, here, jump in. But so there was definitely a lot of, trial notebook. There was a lot of kind of the background research of collecting the documents, reaching out to people to request said documents. Not so much drafting during the internship while I was doing it, but it was, we had 3 paralegals in that unit. And so I was kind of assisting them while they were doing the bulk of it. But I got to work with each of them to kind of see how different paralegals were kind of doing the same job, to also get kind of a feel for what was acceptable, what wasn't, which also kind of educated me on my own paralegal style, if you will, and kind of the best of all the worlds and what worked for me. There was definitely a lot of, as far as like, I think it would count as soft skills of email updates and stuff to our clients, because we represented Pima County. So it was a lot of like emails to the various departments and kind of letting them know, hey, here's what's going on, here's what we need, can you please do this, setting up meetings. So there's also some secretarial work in a way. This particular office is very big on everyone can work down, you just can't work up. So a lot of people share the tasks. Even if you have a secretary, you still kind of help them with their tasks if they're not available. And it's very family oriented in a way, if you will. So it's kind of the gist of what I did during my internship.
Thanks, Damos. Amanda.
Okay, so one of the more difficult things during my internship was definitely learning the case management system. That was something that, you kind of self-teach when it comes to that. And it's something that's super important when it comes to inputting the clients and then taking time and all of that stuff. For some reason, that was something that, took a little more effort than I actually thought it was going to. And also disclosure. The amount of disclosure, the redacting, like that was just something I really had to focus on my time management and just, staying focused, trying to, pay attention to the disclosure, but not get caught up in all of, like the juicy text messages or things like that, or, trying to not skip over certain photos or, those kind of things. So that was definitely took me a little, focus. And then dealing with clients, every client and every opposing party, the way we deal with judicial assistance, it's all different. So learning those different relationships and, trying to catch on to, this person might need a little more tough love, or this person might need a little more explaining, or, you wear different shoes with each client or person you interact with. So that, was something that I had to work on.
Yeah, and I just want to point out some differences I've noticed from listening to the 4 interns, because Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong, you worked in a fairly small law office, I believe 1 attorney and maybe 1 or 2 paralegals, whereas Damos and Matt Matt's currently interning in large organizations, both government. And then Stephen is working, I guess I'd still call Westwatt Law a small firm, but certainly not as small as a sole practitioner. So what I heard, and what some of our viewers might have a question about, is, some differences between working in a large organization or a large law firm versus a small environment, because I think Amanda described some tasks that, and she may continue as we go on with the panel discussion, tasks that people that intern or work in a larger setting, again, whether government or large law firm, might not be doing because they have their own niche and tight area that they work in. Well, thank you. I'm going to move on to the next question. I realize, again, we have interns that have already graduated and working, and we have current interns. So my question is, how did or will your intern experience help you in your education and or job search? Or did it help you in your job search for those of you that are currently employed? Let's start with Stephen. Yeah, go ahead, Stephen.
So as far as I'll attack the part of the question about the job search. I mean, it definitely helps. You don't always expect that you're going to get retained by the same firm that you intern with, but kind of piggybacking off of what everybody else said with client relations or interoffice relations, these, no matter where you intern, these firms or these organizations are trusting you with their caseload. They're trusting you with their confidentiality. And you really get to do hands-on work that affects people's cases and lives. And so how you treat that during your internship is very important. And I think that really helps out for them to make a determination if there is an opening on, considering you for employment. For me, I was very fortunate that there was an opening and I was retained. As far as for my education, I think the internship is invaluable. It should be a requirement, especially if you don't have experience as a paralegal on your resume. And we talk about this, the workshops in Par 290 that go along with the actual internship itself help out a lot, because not only do you get resume and cover letter instruction and breakout sessions with practice, but also mock interviews. And it was really helpful for, as far as job searching, it's really helpful because you then have paralegal experience to put on your resume, and that makes you a step above a lot of people in a very competitive job market. But it was also invaluable to my education because having that hands-on experience with motions, I'd say last semester before the internship, I would struggle with, verbiage and legalese or structure of motions and pleadings. And then now in 202, I can do, and I know Lene's listening, so don't challenge me further, but I can do more of the motions and pleadings now a lot quicker, and the homework comes easier. And not just because it makes it easy, but because you actually understand it. So the exposure to the on-the-job training you get really helps you learn, especially in whatever substantive area of law that you're going to be interning for.
All right. Thanks, Stephen. Matt, do you want me to repeat the question?
No, that's okay. Yeah, I'd echo a lot of what Stephen said, especially, having that experience on your resume. It's invaluable. As far as helping me with the job search, I'd say just because, and to answer one of the questions in the chat, the work I've been doing, it's not as hands-on, I guess, as what I would like to do as a career. So it's helped me narrow down that I don't necessarily want to work. I do want to work in criminal law, but not necessarily for the county, for the government, because just by the nature of the billing structure, they have the lawyers do a lot of the drafting that paralegals would do in a private practice. So it's definitely narrowed down that if I'm going to stay in this area of law, I would want to work for private practice in a smaller office somewhere, so I can have that more hands-on work that I want to do. I got in this field to do. Yeah, that's.
No, that's very helpful, Matt, because I often tell the new, shall we say, flock of interns at the beginning of the semester that, students may find that the place they're interning is not where they want to work. And that sounds like a negative, but it's actually, in my opinion, a positive, because, you kind of narrow down maybe some choices. So if I heard correctly, Matt saying, well, maybe I'd want to work in a private law firm because I might have more opportunity to do drafting or be more closely involved with the case versus having a specific niche at the public defender's office. So that's helpful, I think, as far as, being exposed. I've also had interns, by the way, I know this sounds strange, who worked in an area that they were interested in, because I asked students to put down their 3 top choices of where they'd like to intern. And of course, I do my best to place them in their top choice, but I can't always do that. And I've had students who worked, in an area that I put them in, whether it was their first or second, third choice, and decided, oh, I guess I don't want to work in this area. Now that I've been exposed to everyday, if you will, work in XYZ area, I've decided I want to work in a different area. So although, again, that sounds at first glance to be negative, it's actually, in my book at least, a positive, because the student has always wanted to work in XYZ law, but finds out, maybe not so much. I'm going to go work in this other area of law. So Deimos, please go ahead.
I'm also going to kind of start with how the internship affected my job search. I had applied both at private and public law, or more bigger law firms, because I wasn't really sure what I wanted. I was still kind of new to the field. And to kind of also tie this into one of the questions in chat, I was offered a position at a couple of different law firms, but what made me choose this particular law firm is when I started here, I did not start as a paralegal. I actually started as legal processing support, which is, it's legal processing support, which is kind of like the bottom rung, and then secretary, and then paralegal. And even though some of the other jobs had offered me straight away to become a paralegal, which obviously would have been a little bit more pay as well right out the gate, I actually ended up choosing to come here, even though I started at much lower, because of the internship and my experience, because I'd already met a lot of the people I'd be working around, and they had a lasting impact on me in a positive way. I chose the working environment that I had enjoyed versus the unknown at a job and more pay and the position I wanted. I'd rather kind of work my way up to my position, which is what I did. I was legal processing support for 6 months, and then I became a paralegal 6 months later. So I think that your internship can definitely impact where you go and kind of your impression, especially because one of the things that impacted me while interning here as well is the fact that there's some overlap, if you will. And so like, even if my paralegals that I was interning with were not quite available to answer a question, because where I was interning was very fast paced and we had multiple attorneys, I could, to the extent that they can, other departments were willing to answer my questions and guide me and give me kind of information on how things were generally done, even if it wasn't the specifics. So like your internship could definitely impact your future and where you go. And I think there was more to your question. I don't recall right offhand.
No, I think you covered it, Deimos. I said, how did or will the experience help you in your education and or job search? And so you really did a great job of covering job search.
And I think, I was just going to say one more thing I think I can add, which is also an answer to one of the questions in chat too, as far as my specific experience is the kind of the deadlines and like the workload, part-time as an intern. I was held to the same standard as the other paralegals I was working with. So if I was given a task that needed to be done by a certain day or a certain time, I was held to the same standard as if I was an employee, and it was unpaid, I believe, when I did my intern, but they held me to the same standard.
That's helpful. Thank you. Amanda.
So education-wise, it definitely helped get me through the rest of my courses. just being able to put everything into perspective. I definitely learn a lot better when I see more of like the whole picture kind of thing, and being out in like the real world, I guess it just helped put some of the pieces together. And actually with my internship, it was kind of a unique situation. They were looking for a paralegal employee at the same time that I was to call for my interview for my for the paralegal intern program. And they were like, well, are you actually interested in working? And I was like, well, let me check with Gwen to see if I can do both. And Gwen is like, yeah, sure, if they want to hire you. So I did 2 separate interviews, one for the paid position and then the other for my intern position. And then I kept separate days and separate schedules for each. But they kept me on full time after my internship was over, and I stayed there. And I got this position that I'm currently at via word of mouth. In family law, it's very small. You know, everyone knows everyone pretty much. So, you know, someone gave my resume to the firm and I got an interview. So it definitely, the internship, you know, without the internship, my job search would have definitely been a lot different, a much different direction.
Thanks, Amanda, because that kind of segues into the next question, which is, did the internship help you make connections? And when I say connections, the ones that at least come to my mind, but you certainly could add to this, would be references, mentorships. I know sometimes, you know, you might work with somebody that you click with. You may not get hired. You could continue to consult them for certain issues that come up at your job. But any kind of, I guess, non-tangibles, maybe that's the way to say it, that came up as a result of your internship. Stephen?
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to what you said about working in, you know, a different area of law based on Matt's response. It's funny because family law was not my first choice, but due to logistical challenges with the internship, I got placed in family law, and I've actually grown to like family law, which is why I wanted to stay. So there's the opposite effect. But to answer this question, yes, absolutely. To be able to network, excuse me, to be able to network during the internship was very valuable. So getting to know judicial administrative assistants of certain judges, because you have to call them or submit things to them, going to bar association luncheons, getting exposure that way to attorneys, going to clinics, Step Up to Justice, Southern Arizona Legal Aid, just making connections in the community and mostly getting your name out there. As a paralegal intern, you won't really have like a business card, but I would swap information with as many people as I could and make those connections. And it's nice now because once you then go into the workforce as a paralegal, you keep those relationships, and it makes things a lot smoother in the process for you, that you've got that shoe in the door already by doing the internship.
Thanks, Stephen. Sorry about the pause. I realized we were looking at private chat instead of comments on our computer because you kept on saying, oh, there's a question about this. Okay, Matt, would you like to respond to whether or not you've made some non-tangible connections or gained some non-tangible things as a result of your internship?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually regretted not saying in the last question that one of the biggest benefits probably to a job search is going to be the fact that I'm going to walk away from this internship with at least 3 or 4 references from people who are presumably pretty well connected in the criminal defense field in Tucson. And to answer Jay's question, that is probably my favorite aspect of my internship, is that I have met these people. I have had very interesting conversations with probably the most experienced criminal defense attorneys in Tucson as far as county defense goes. So it's absolutely, I think, going to pay off in a major way in that way.
I'm glad to hear that, Matt. Damos.
There's free.
You're on mute, Damos.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the networking aspect has been very crucial because when I interned, a lot of the people that I interned with, both in my department and neighboring departments, are no longer here. But I've been able to maintain those contacts even as they've went to other firms, both locally and out of state, and been a continued resource for like when we're looking at, if we have a case that originates from out of state, but they have, property in Pima County, therefore we're a party, they're able to help with some resources for their local laws to kind of help us make sure that, because sometimes deadlines, jurisdiction changes. And so having those connections to get kind of better help with your research has been invaluable. Additionally, the networking both from my internship and kind of beyond as a result of those initial people I've met has also kind of bolstered my my connections to other groups around Tucson, kind of similar to what Matt's saying, where he has those references. Those references, like on my end, helped because one of my coworkers was friends with someone in the Tucson Paralegal Association before we disbanded, and so through a coworker here while I was interning, who I've met, his friend who was in the thing kind of helped me then get join the board for Tucson Paralegal Association, and then eventually my current board with the Legal Support Alliance I'm on the board of directors for. And so there's various different things really kind of connect you and allow you to even attend events, because I don't think most people realize how small the local legal community really is and how sociable they are. It's a very social network or environment. So the more people even people on competitive different sides of the same lawsuit, can talk and be jovial walking to and walking from. It's not as adversarial as you think, outside of the courtroom. So it's having those references and meeting people and networking is extremely crucial in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's easy for all of us to be kind of short-sighted and think, oh, well, now I have my job, but you never know 5, 10, 15 years down the line, you'll need a connection, right? Maybe somebody that you met during your internship or a previous job will know of an opening and also perhaps be a reference for you. So that's definitely a benefit of the internship. Amanda, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, actually, one more thing too to add to mine that just occurred to me is kind of going back to what Stephen was saying about the area of law not being his first. It also helped because during my internship, I was exposed to an area of law. I don't remember exactly what area offhand it was, but it was similar to what I wanted to do, which was copyright and patent law. I was convinced, as a fresh graduate, that's what I wanted to do. I wrote fiction in my free time. I wanted to protect writing and ideas. And then I actually worked in a field that was similar to that and realized it was not for me at all. And so, interning is one of the things you can kind of get from it too, is kind of learning, like, what you think you like doesn't have to be where you end up.
Amanda.
Okay, so there's actually a question in the chat that kind of correlates to this. So the law firm that I was at, she was a solo practitioner. She owned her own firm for 10 years. And then she decided she wanted to spend more time with her family. So she ended up getting a government job. And she has actually, with her connections there, has hired 3 other family law attorneys that are now doing different kind of government work. So you never know where in those connections, when they're going to be needed. But she was like, hey, we're looking for an opening, and she knew of good attorneys and just put, the job out there. And so now they're also working with her. But as far as your internship with networking and things like that, you are treated like an employee. So you make phone calls, you send emails. So your name is actually out there. So if you're sending, good quality emails and they like, the voice on the other side of the phone call, you treated them with respect, whatever it may be, they're going to remember that. And it seems something so minuscule, but it's really not, especially if, for instance, family law, really small, word of mouth, things like that, so it does help.
Thank you. So I guess my last question before I think we should make sure we've addressed all the questions that have come in is if you could give one or two pieces of advice to students that are contemplating the internship or maybe have already decided they want to apply for the internship, what would they be? Stephen, you want to go ahead?
Sure. So I'd say the number one piece of advice, other than do the internship if you haven't decided already, is treat your internship like it's your actual job, like you've already been hired and you're supposed to be a paralegal. Because too many times, and not just in this field, but my experience in the past, you see it is an internship. You're not required to be there all the time. But as we saw earlier from other people's answers, that you'll have the same expectations and deadlines as a paralegal in the firm. That's going to set you ahead by treating it like it's your full-time job and taking that ownership. And included in that is, dress for the job, treat your coworkers with respect, and communication is key. And my second piece of advice would be soak up as much information as you can, and not just for your future career as a paralegal, but use your time wisely to seek help on areas you're struggling in school. This is like your one free chance to basically get time where, and now that it's paid internship is a possibility, not at every firm, but mine was, but you're basically getting paid to ask free questions from attorneys to answer your questions to help you in your classes. So I used it for that purpose as well. So definitely an invaluable experience.
Thanks, Stephen. Matt, do you have any words of wisdom, one or two pieces of advice that you'd like to share with students considering the internship?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to echo a lot of what Stephen said. Just definitely do the internship and take it head on. Just dive in. Take everything you can away from it, because even if you're not being paid, like, it's still, it's invaluable. Just draw everything you can from it. Put your all into it. It's about 10 hours a week is all I'm doing. So it's not a huge time commitment. And what you get back from it is definitely very, very worth it.
Thanks, Matt. Damos?
Again, mirroring them as well, but I also want to kind of add is one thing that I found helpful is sometimes wherever you're interning, they also may have resources and notes and stuff like that that is not something specific to their firm, but that you can kind of take with you, if you will, that maybe you didn't have access to in school, that can further your own knowledge of, the deadlines and different types of things that, like for example, with my office, we had a actual spreadsheet that I was allowed to take home with me and then keep, that the office gave me, that listed like in a general litigation lawsuit from beginning through discovery to the end, the deadlines, what rule governs those deadlines, which was super helpful and beneficial. So asking your office while you're interning if they have any resources, that you can take with you for educational purposes, just to help you do your job well. Definitely be open to communicating with them and asking for things like that, because if you don't ask, you won't receive.
Great suggestion. Amanda?
I don't really have anything much to add. All these guys nailed it. I mean, just do the internship. It's definitely worth it for sure. And like I said, mine was unpaid at the time, and I would still do it over again.
You guys had wonderful advice for potential interns. I don't know how we want to handle questions. Is that something that the club will read, or should I go through them?
Let's
See.
see. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Gwen,
Yes.
I put them up on the screen.
Oh, right there.
I starred them as we went, so
Okay.
we can have the Q&A section.
So what am I looking
I
at?
think he answered that, but Damos, do you see the question?
Yeah, I can. I did answer it earlier, but I don't mind saying it again. My initial position at Pima was actually legal processing support, which
Okay.
dealt a lot with like filing and doing stuff like that for the paralegals, preparing the documents, putting them together, organizing them, and then filing them after the paralegals had drafted everything and put it together.
So we have one from Jay for all paid or unpaid internships. Jay, can you unmute? Do you want to tell us what you meant by that?
They can't speak. They can only
okay.
text.
Oh, okay.
Well, he had asked another question. Can I go to that one? He said favorite or least favorite aspects of the different internship experiences. Does anybody want to share a favorite or least favorite? Steven?
I think my favorite part of the internship was just being able to come to work every day and be treated like a valuable member of the team. And then also, like we've been saying over and over, just the products that you get to take away. Least favorite, while it is a big commitment, even though it's only 10 hours a week, while you're going to school full time and probably working another job, my least favorite part was actually not having more time during the internship, just because, you know, you want to hit the ground running and you have a lot of due outs and a lot of things that, you know, not only are due, but you want to finish and complete the job. So it was frustrating trying to break the schedule up into such limited hours.
Anyone else have a favorite or least favorite aspect they want to share?
I can chime in. For me, I think my favorite aspect was the fact that we were held to the same standard, because it not only challenges you when you're first interning and kind of really getting exposed to the legal field outside of a school setting, but it also helps give you the confidence that you can indeed handle it and potentially do well in a real, in a real job setting, not just interning. So that was my favorite.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to chime in? Matt or Amanda? No?
Sure. So let's say my favorite is the kind of networking aspect, getting to talk to these very experienced lawyers, and also just getting to dig into, especially putting together these trial notebooks like I've been doing the last couple of weeks, is just really getting to dig into a couple of cases, learn the real like nitty gritty, I guess, of how attorneys prepare to take cases to court. And my least favorite is probably, there's a lot of redundant like administrative work that they've been having us do. It's not very exciting, but it's, it's part of the job. It's good experience regardless.
Seeing if we missed anything.
Oh, right here on the screen.
Oh, okay. What was the interview process like when you were considering internships? Does anyone have an answer to that?
I can chime in on that one. For me, the interview process was it kind of almost like any job interview, where they're asking me questions, kind of, what my expectations were for interning, what I was hoping to get out of it. I also was allowed to ask a lot of questions. I think I probably would have asked a lot of questions, even if they had tried to not have me ask too many questions, because I'm known for, as Gwen can probably recount, I'm known for asking a lot of questions. That's just how I learn. So it wasn't as formal as a proper job interview, but there was definitely room for kind of learning the expectations and what to expect, which also kind of gave me some insight into, even before I started interning, kind of what they were looking for future interns as well, which was, I think, valuable.
Did any of you do any prep for your interviews? That's my question. Did you have any prep from the college, or how did you prepare for your interview?
I can weigh in on that. I did prepare for my interview. I'd say that I expected it to be just as intimidating as a regular interview, and in some ways, I guess it depends on the firm or where you're interviewing. For me, it was a little bit more relaxed, I think, because it was for an internship. But at the same time, I was still held to the same standard. But for preparation, I'd highly recommend looking into the firm or the organization that you're interviewing for. It's always good to know what areas of law, who the attorneys are, if they list who their paralegals are, what their mission statement is, and just do a little bit of background research, because when you reiterate that in your interview, it shows that you did your research and that you actually care about getting that position.
I second actually what he said as well.
Exactly. We looked at their website.
Yeah, I scoured their website. I looked up all the information I could, and I was extremely nervous. I did not know what to expect, and so I treated it like an actual job interview, because I didn't know how formal or not they would be and how strict they would be in the interview process. And having been through a lot of previous job interviews in my past, I kind of just treated it in the same fashion and went in as if I was interviewing for my first job, and fingers crossed the whole time.
Amanda, did you have anything to add to that?
Nope, that's exactly it. Just their website. Definitely review the firm's website before your interview. And I had an over-the-phone interview, and then I had an in-person interview also.
Thank you for sharing that. We have a question from Holly. What were the expectations on meeting deadlines and workload if you're there on a part-time basis as an intern? Amanda, did you have anything to answer that?
So normally the firm, the paralegal, the attorney that you're working for, they're going to know how long a task should take, even with learning. So they're going to definitely give you something that they know should be able to be accomplished within a certain time. And then they're going to tell you, like, here you go. You have this timeline. And also it teaches you to give feedback and update at the end of your shift, like, okay, this is what I finished, here you go, do I continue? So it opens up the lines of communication with whoever your supervisor is also.
Anyone else want to add to that?
I can chime in a little bit. I know, like I'd mentioned before, we were held to the same standard as the other paralegals. And so a lot of how they would handle it in my case is they give me a task and like, here's a specific deadline, here's the size of the project, here's when we expect you to have it done. We're available for questions, but this is your project. We're having you work on this deadline. But the big thing they really pushed as far as the workload was, if for any reason, if you feel like you are not going to get this done in the time frame that you're given, tell us so that we can jump in and help. Because even though I was an intern, we were all being held accountable for these projects that we were working on together. There's 3 paralegals plus me as the intern. So I felt like the workload was more than I expected going in, but not overwhelming or undoable. And they were, very big, and the deadlines were definitely the same regardless if it was me or them.
Yeah, paralegal work is all about deadlines. It's all about that. Let's see. Kat asks Matt, what kinds of work have you been doing in your internship? I think you touched on that, but is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, I think I've covered everything. And to go back to the timeline question, the last question, basically everything they've given us has been, it's either we have a month or 2 before we need this done. So, get to it when you can in your 10 hours, or it's stuff that's going to be done, in 1 or 2 shifts.
Thank you for that.
All right. I
Those
think
were the last questions.
we do?
That was it.
Oh, that was it. Okay. All right. Well, I think, yes, Stephen wrote, thank you, Sydney, for her tech genius. Yes. Thank you to the Paralegal Club and, of course, to the officers for their attention and dedication to having these presentations. I would encourage anyone that might come up with additional questions, either for me or for the interns, to let me know. If it's for the interns or previous interns, then I can definitely pass your questions along to them. And at this point, did you want to give them your phone number again for the club?
I'm wondering,
Yeah, there you go. Whoop.
do I connect?
Let's see.
I don't want to press a button.
Yeah, I know.
Sydney, we're having trouble adding to the chat. We're clicking join the chat.
I already moved your phone number into there. I
Oh,
saw
you did. Oh, thank you so much. Okay.
it's way at the top.
So for anyone who didn't hear me talk about it at the top of the meeting, if you want to come to the courthouse tour on the 16th, there's going to be more announcements, but it'll be 8:30 at the federal courthouse. And if you have trouble RSVPing through Pima Engage, don't worry about that. Just show up, I provided my number. So if you get there late or you can't find us or you're interested in going or need information, just contact me through my phone. Just text me, because we had some glitches with the Justice Court tour as far as attendance, because Pima Engage just was having a glitch. They made some changes to it and it really kind of messed us up. So we don't want that to happen this time. So just come on down and join us. It's a really great opportunity to we got to talk with the judges. They made their schedule only half of what they normally take on their docket for us. So they could have a case, and then they talked to us about the case and took any questions. And both judges spent time with us, literally sitting down with us and had a meeting with us. And we got to ask all kinds of questions, and it was really, really interesting. So hopefully you'll join us for the federal court tour.
That sounds great. Well, thank you very much to all of our panelists. I really appreciate you taking time from your busy schedules to help prospective interns decide what steps they want to take next. Bye, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.